There are too many of them. What are we going to do?
Stellaris patch 3.10 is about to release, and we now have the patch notes. In this video, I am going to go through those patch notes in excruciating detail and try and explain to you what I think is going on with Stellaris and what I think the state of the game will be come Thursday. This is quite a big patch. There are quite a lot of changes coming in. Bear in mind that makes this patch notes video very darn long. We are going to be under an hour, thank goodness gracious me, but it's a lot. So do make sure you sat down, maybe kind of listen along. There won't be that much to watch. I am going to, in general, show you the text that I'm reading, but you don't need to read along with me unless that's really something you want to do. Otherwise, sit down, shut up, grab a drink, and let's dive in. First off, we have a quick overview of the new features coming with Astral Planes. That's the paid DLC. After that, we've got the overall free patch with all of the changes coming there. But I think what's most important about this initial Astral Planes DLC segment is the little bit of text they have accompanying it. Our largest story-based release yet. Astral Planes focuses on mid to late game exploration content with over 30 astral rifts with widely branching storylines. Unlike the relative safety of archaeology sites, the rifts you explore will lead to completely different realms of existence where fundamentals that were certain at home may not always be true. The opening part of that I think is the most important. Largest story-based release yet. So whilst they're not calling this a story pack, and they're also not calling it a major expansion, they are pricing it higher than we've ever seen a story pack priced before. For example, First Contact was quite a meaty story pack. There were 3 large narrative-based origins in there, along with a full rework to primitives, and that only priced in at $15 or 15 euros. Major expansions in the past are priced in at 20 euros, and Astral Planes is also being charged at $20 or 20 euros. Just something to think about. As I've mentioned before, I am going to be doing a review video. That video will drop to coincide with the release date on Thursday at 5 PM European time. I'm not sure what other times that is in other parts of the world, but if you want to check out my review before you choose to purchase the game, which you may or may not want to do, that is the time I will be releasing it, just so you are aware in advance. Alright, let's continue. So, they've added astral scars and rifts. These are kind of like the archaeology sites. They've added 30 plus of these rift sites, so that is a lot. A lot of, if they were archaeology sites, a lot of archaeology sites to be adding in, a lot of narrative stuff there. Each site, however, contains branching narratives featuring multiple potential endings and a chance at powerful new rewards. I think that's kind of really important here as well. Not only are they 30 big archaeology sites, they're bigger than other archaeology sites we've seen before because they have branching narratives with different possible endings. So one rift, one astral rift, is kind of larger than a single archaeology site, I'm suspecting. They've added the Astral Threads resource, they've added the Astral Harvesting and Rift Sphere technologies, they've added the Rift in Space situation and Random Rift situations. That is the technology, the Rift Sphere technology you need in order to actually start exploring these rifts. And by locking it behind a technology, by not allowing our scientists to explore astral rifts straight away, that is why it is classed as a mid to late game exploration feature, which kind of sounds like it's basically archaeology sites, but the game is applying a little bit of gatekeeping here and preventing you from actually completing them until later on in the game so that you still have something to do a little later. They've added 8 new relics, 10 new astral actions, 4 if you have the Overlord expansion, 1 new origin, the Rift World origin, as we've seen Alpha Yang go through it just the other day on the Stellaris main channel. Let's talk about that one briefly. So that origin basically seems to provide very little except speeding up your ability to start doing astral rifts. We'll have wait and see if that's all it is, because if that's all this Origin does, that would feel like something of a lackluster Origin. They've added 4 new civics: Hyperspace Specialty, Dimensional Worship, Dark Consortium, and Sovereign Guardianship. Some of those civics do look really interesting though. Sovereign Guardianship is being pegged as a tall civic, a civic for tall play in your empire, and Dark Consortium is a civic that allows you to harvest dark matter right from the start of the game, and later on in the game you'll get a special council position to be able to get dark matter from all of your researchers. That's pretty cool, especially if you're trying to get the crisis completed, and on top of that you'll also get some special agendas in the mid to late game to allow you to unlock dark matter technologies, which hitherto has been completely unattainable unless you've gone and assassinated a fallen empire and stolen their technology. So that's definitely a civic I think we should be watching out for. They've added 3 new music tracks from Andreas Waldertoft, over 70 new event pictures, and 80 new sound effects, and finally, the Formless. Now, I'm suspecting the Formless is a crisis of some sort, mid-game, late game. We are going to have to wait and see, but there's been very little except just putting the word out there. I've gone through this a lot more in the video I did last week on Thursday, so if you want to find out more about that, go check out the video covering the civics and Origin, because they did kind of talk about this maybe with the trailer. We will have to wait and see though. Let's move on now to free features. This is going to be the features coming in patch 3.10. Leader consolidation is on the way, as we've seen in Dev Diary 3.2.2. Admirals and generals have been merged into commanders, the military leader class. Governors and some envoy functions have been merged into officials, that is the administrative leader class. Officials are now assigned to represent your empire in each of the galactic community or Imperium and your federation, rather than assigning multiple envoys. So in some ways, envoys are kind of dead. Envoys represent your empire's overall diplomatic bandwidth, handling first contact, improving and harming relations, and espionage. Not really areas that you drastically need lots and lots and lots and lots of envoys for. Probably 3 or 4 is plenty there. Scientists remain the 3rd scientific leader class. All leader classes can now govern planets and sectors. Military governors apply martial law, which is honestly so overpowered and broken, to a planet or sector, which increases worker and slave output at the cost of specialist and ruler output. Well, that's not quite true in total net, because, as you'll read now, you can then add soldiers to the planet or sector, sometimes even via this military governor, and martial law causes soldiers to increase stability. I've run the numbers here, and basically you can end up with net roughly 0 in terms of your total decrease to your specialists and rulers, with like 40-50% increase to your workers and slaves, as long as you don't get too high in the levels and cap out your stability at 100. I know it sounds ridiculous, the thought that capping out your stability at 100 is a limiting factor here, but yes, it's very easy to do that, and that is a problem. Administrative governors increase general material resource extraction and industrial productivity. Scientific governors increase research output on the planet or sector. This replaces the old assist research scientist action, which has been removed. And overall, they seem to be adding a lot of increased research output, plus 5% per level, because the bonuses of all of these different governors seem to scale with the level of the leader, which is honestly really wacky, and generally it's plus 5% of whatever they're giving a bonus to per level. Most governor traits now include/apply to a lesser extent to the rest of the sector, unless a local planetary governor is overriding them. They've added the Minister of State for non-Gestalt empires. Some civics such as the Fanatic Purifiers or Inward Perfectionists do not get this position. The Minister of Defense, Research and State Council positions are no longer locked for players with Galactic Paragons, and can be replaced with other council positions when you reorganize your councils. However, this comes at a cost. If you have no Minister of Defense, the commander-specific role, you'll lose 25% of your naval capacity. That would really hurt. However, do bear in mind that later in the game we do tend to stack bonuses to our naval capacity, plus 10% here, plus 20% there. So overall, this minus 25%, because I'm guessing it's going to be computed additively rather than multiplicatively, that really probably represents minus 5 or minus 10% in total, which is much less terrifying. Also, having no Minister of State reduces your diplomatic weight by 25%, so if you're not going for the galactic community, you can actually probably get rid of Minister of State fairly easily, or if you have a very, very high level official in the galactic community, you can probably bite the bullet on this one and just take that 25% penalty in order to have all 3 of your civics represented on the council with their different council positions. Having no head of research gives you minus 25% research speed. This seems like the worst of all of these, and yeah, I think having the head of research is probably the most critical. A balance pass has been made on all leader traits and subclasses. This is something I'm kind of scared about. I wonder what they've done to some of our precious leader traits. Some of them might have been nerfed into the ground or changed beyond recognition. Many have changed significantly, and the overall power level has generally been decreased. Traits chosen when leveling up will now be biased towards the leader's current position, whether or not you have galactic paragons. For example, a scientist that is governing a planet will be more likely to receive leader traits related to planetary governance. Interesting. The classes are all event leaders and paragons, as well as leader-themed civics, technologies, and traditions have been reviewed and adjusted. That is something I think is going to take a lot of getting used to. Having all of the different various paragons you can find out there, that the special paragons that we've known and loved for a while, change their leader class, possibly, could feel really, really weird. Council legitimacy now gives bonuses or penalties to council agenda speed. Basically what that is it's a representation of how legitimate your council is from the point of view of your factions, which basically are meant to represent the people, the pops in your empire, and also from the various policies you have enacted. So now, enacting the right policies will not just give you increased bonuses to faction approval, it will also change how legitimate your overall ruling council is. That could be a really interesting mechanic if the devs work even further on it. They've replaced the recommended content window with a more full-featured additional content browser. The additional content browser increases the clarity and transparency of what various DLCs contain by letting you preview things like Origin Civics with full tooltips that include nested concepts, animated portraits, ship sets, all of the things you get in the DLC. It is the hope of the developers that this will help you, the community, make more informed decisions about DLC purchases. The additional content browser will only be available on some storefronts and will not update information without an active internet connection, which honestly makes perfect sense. I mean, if you don't have the internet, how would your game know that things have changed, that changes have been made? What is awesome though, is it means if you want to know what is in a specific DLC, you can go there, look, and you know you're going to have an updated tooltip with the updated feature in, which is better a lot of the times than going to, for example, the Steam page where it says something, but maybe things have been patched, the custodians have done a balance pass or added new features in, and that information is now out of date. They've added a tabbed outliner. This is something that looks so good, I want it so badly. Information is now split across government, ships, politics, and structure tabs, which will appear as they become relevant to your empire. Oh my god, yes. This is hopefully going to get rid of the doom scrolling you've been having to do when moving between your planets and your fleets and that sort of thing. And if you're enjoying this video, please doom scroll that like button. Let's look now at improvements. Many event chains now include event chain titles in the event window. This should basically enable us as players to keep track, or at least try and better keep track, of which events are preceding or following other similar events. What's going on? What is the chain here, and what should we be remembering? Because sometimes, especially if you have multiple chains firing at the same time, it can be very difficult to remember or know which event is part of which chain and what prior information is important. Where's the story come from and where is it going? Those are the questions hopefully now we'll be able to answer. They've added 3 new planet modifiers. That's very cool. Abundant geothermal activity. I'm guessing that's mineral related, or possibly energy, actually. Probably energy, isn't it? Subterranean wildlife. Food, maybe. Rich microflora. Now that one's definitely got to be food. Rich microflora. That sounds like tasty, tasty food. They've added 4 planetary decisions to be able to remove some negative modifiers without having to terraform the planet. Removing bleak planet, adding dayside farming, removing hazardous weather, and removing dangerous wildlife. That's cool. I mean, it does make sense that we would, as, star-spanning empires, be able to deal with some megaflora, some giant cats, or whatever it is that's on that image. A toast message, remember that's a notification type, will now appear when a truce expires. Oh, that is lovely. If you're waiting for a truce to expire before going to war, you'll now get a notification saying, hey, the truce is done, time to fight. That's a really good quality of life improvement. They've clarified tooltips of modifiers that increase leader capacity. They've expanded on the Zeroni dig site descriptions, that's cool. A notification will now be sent when your fleets are unexpectedly forced to decloak. Didn't it already give us a notification? Alright, fair enough. You can now change the destination of a Leviathan parade situation at the cost of some unity. That is amazing. It was honestly very annoying when you killed a Leviathan, for example, I don't know, the one with plus 20% district capacity on a planet, and then it went on some tiny, ridiculous backwater that was, I don't know, level or size 12, when you wanted to put it on your size 23 Ecumenopolis potential candidate world. Now you can move that at the small cost of some unity, and that's actually really good, thank goodness. Now we get into the balance changes. And honestly, if you weren't already sat down, if you don't already have a drink, I'd recommend you sit down and you get that drink or snack. You're going to need it. This is really where it gets heavy. There's a lot of balance changes coming. There's basically pages of this stuff. All right, let's try and crack on and get through it. So, administrative leaders can no longer serve as the head of research. That makes sense. They now get their own council slot. The head of, I've forgotten what it's called already because it's so silly. The Minister of State. Yes, the one that does very little. But it does provide a nice cushy role for an official at the start of the game, which I am very happy about, even if I don't like the head of state, Minister of State position, whatever it's called itself. Archaeoengineer's Ascension perk now gives +1 scientist capacity. We're going to be seeing a lot of this increasing of leader capacity. For those of you that wanted higher leader capacities in the game, your wish has almost certainly been answered. Looking through these notes, because I'm going to just actually go off on a tangent before I read on further, because I have read through ahead. Looking through these notes, I think we can comfortably get to like 25, 30, 35 total leader capacity across the board now, which is something we hitherto could not get to or even get anywhere near. 12, 14 was kind of the maximum limit if you took all the right ascension perks and that kind of stuff. Now, just to have as many leaders as you want, basically, is what they've decided. And they fully rolled back, the developers, have fully rolled back on their position of less leaders provides for a more rewarding gameplay. I think rolling back on that position may have been somewhat of a mistake. I think having less leaders makes each individual leader more important. They should have possibly added some new minor leaders in that only had kind of minor roles, kind of like envoys basically. You could assign them to a planet, they could boost some things on that planet maybe, or assign them to a thing. They could do a thing, like you could assign them to a science ship. And then we had a few kind of exceptional leaders across the Empire that did really exceptional things and provided exceptional bonuses. Now you're going to be managing 20, 30, 40 leaders, and when they all level up, let's say you fire leadership conditioning, oh my goodness me, and they all level up, you're going to be dealing with 30 leader levels all in one go. That's going to feel crippling, I think, later on in the game, but that's just some speculation. Let's continue. Aristocratic Elite no longer has plus 20% governor experience gain. It instead gives a plus 20% chance for leaders to have a bonus positive and a bonus negative trait. The way it's worded makes me think it's both you get a bonus positive and bonus negative, but maybe it's 20% chance for each. If it's the latter, 20% chance for each, then I think that's better. Autonomous drones and sovereign circuits now provide +1 leader trait option. That really does improve those civics that were kind of underutilized until now. Belligerent diplomatic stance now grants -1 external leader pool size in addition to existing effects. The developers have blocked inward perfectionist and fanatic purifiers from having a Minister of State. Centralized command society tech has been increased to tier 3. Honestly, I can't remember what that one does. I'm not going to look it up. Somebody let me know in the comments, though, and if you think that that's an impactful change. That's one where I'm going to go, interesting, tell me another. Change the leader recruitment cost to be a quadratic equation instead of exponential. Huh. I'm guessing that's for going over capacity? Or do they just mean just the basic recruitment cost if your leader is a higher level? Very interesting to know which one that one means. Cooperative diplomatic stance now grants +1 external leader pool size in addition to existing effects. Remember, the external leader pool size is basically a thing that allows you to recruit leaders from other empires. They're not really, but kind of the species is another empire from empires you have good diplomatic relations with out there in the galaxy. Corporate authority and corporate dominion civic now grant +1 external leader pool size in addition to existing effects. Council legitimacy now directly modifies base council agenda speed. At 0%, your base agenda speed is at 50%, so -50% I'm assuming, and at 50% legitimacy it is 100%, and 100% legitimacy it is 125%, or +25% legitimacy. I think this is multiplicative though, otherwise why would they word it in this way, rather than being additive. So we could stack lots of bonuses to increase council agenda speed, but if we have very low legitimacy, that will be kind of ineffective. Empires without council legitimacy, so that's hive minds I guess, are treated as if they have the 50% legitimacy for this one. So regular bioempires, it sounds like, will be able to pass agendas a lot faster. That is a real buff to bioempires, possibly. Decrease the leader XP gain from the luminary bloodline trait. Right, going to talk about this. They seem to have removed quite a lot of the leader experience gain stuff as we go through this, or reduced how effective it is across the board, mostly. As you'll see in a moment, there are a couple of cases where that's wrong, but I'm suspecting this means that our leaders are going to be leveling much slower than they have in the past, at least leaders that are not on the council. I'll get to why that is a little later. The democratic authority now grants +1 leader pool size in addition to existing effects. That is really powerful for democratic. Having right out of the gate +1 leader pool size means you can choose the leaders that you want that have the traits you want to have. Dictatorial authority now grants +25% ruler experience gain. Given that we've seen a lot of XP gain reductions, or we're going to see as I read through this, that means dictatorial is now really good if you'd like to have a very good ruler as the head of your council. But you get -1 leader pool size in addition to all of those other effects. So -1 leader pool size is really nasty. Having only 2 possible leaders you can pick between, yeah, dictatorial is kind of naff in that way then. Naff for those across the pond is bad or rubbish. Or rubbish is garbage? Sorry, garbage, yes, garbage. Empires can now support 3 leaders of each class without using leader capacity. Generic leader capacity has been removed, and basically replaced with specific capacity in every case. Eternal Vigilance now gives +1 commander capacity. Yeah, we're getting into this. Now you can see why, as I said, leader capacities are so much higher than they used to be pre-3.10. Factions are now much more upset if their ethic is not represented on the council or by the empire ruler. So having big councils later on keeps your empire very, very happy. So you really want to be passing that increased council size as soon as possible. Galactic Force Projection now gives +1 commander capacity, +2 max influence from power projection, and increases naval capacity by 100, and what's really big here is fleet command limit by 50. That's quite a lot. It's more than it used to be. I think that +1 commander capacity is going to be pretty irrelevant given all the other bonuses we'll be seeing. The +2 max influence is nice, but again, kind of not amazing. You can get that through traits, unless they've removed the trait. Unless they've removed the trait that does it, but you used to be able to get that through traits on a leader on the council. And that's actually something I'm starting to notice. A lot of the Ascension perks that were really good in the past have been kind of shadow nerfed by the fact that, assuming they haven't reworked all of the traits, so this could be wrong, this is speculation, alright? Gonna caveat that, this is heavy speculation, but a lot of the Ascension perks that were really powerful have kind of been superseded by having a single leader on the council that do just that. Plus 10% research speed from, let's say, the Ascension perk that gives plus 10% research speed. Why don't you just get a leader on the council with the genius trait and make them a researcher? I forget what it's called for the special leader, statistician, wasn't it? And then they're already providing more than plus 10% research speed across the board. And that's just a single level 4 leader with one trait. And they'd be providing, I guess, what, 10? 15%, assuming they've not nerfed that one into the ground, I suppose. But even then, Statistician, we know, provides a bonus, so that's at least plus 5%. So 2 Statisticians, ignoring other traits, and you're already equivalent to 1 Ascension perk. That means Ascension perks, or at least those Ascension perks, are not so great. We've also got, the Unity perks. A lot of the perks we're seeing here that are providing boosts like the max power projection, max influence from power projection. We can add 2 leaders, I'm guessing, unless they've removed it, that do exactly that. And it kind of leaves me feeling, definitely in a lot of ways, that Ascension perks, or at least the low level ones, need something of a rework if they're going to be viable. Why bother taking an Ascension perk if we can just find a leader and get them to do exactly that? Yes, it's nice to have a bonus, but the bonuses have to be impactful and unique, otherwise we're not going to take them. Gestalt rulers no longer count towards leader capacity. Heroic Pass, Precision Cogs, Pooled Knowledge, and Factory Overclocking all now provide +1 Commander, +1 Official, and +1 Scientist capacity. Yes, more leader capacity. Imperial Authority now grants -1 leader pool size in addition to existing effects. Imperial Cult now adds priest jobs to the ruler's homeworld, scaling with their level. That's pretty cool, actually. I think that's a really cool one. Imperial Prerogative now grants +2 official capacity. I'm guessing that's instead of the +1 or +2 leader capacity it used to add, and that could be good. Again, given that you can get leader capacity in so many other ways, it's possibly not that useful. Speaking of Ascension perks that need to be reworked or improved, Mastery of Nature will now grant a modifier that gives you +50% resource districts, I assume when you use the decision on a planet. That actually is really, really good, and in fact might make Mastery of Nature kind of usable. Wow. Something that I don't think needed a buff, and I'm kind of surprised at this one, they've increased leadership conditioning reward to 3,000 experience. Wow. Okay, that's a lot of XP for just completing an agenda. The Isolationist Diplomatic Stance now grants -2 external leader pool size in addition to existing effects. Leader enhancement policies now increase the starting level of leaders instead of leader experience gain. What does that mean? Well, there are technologies which grant +10 years leader lifespan and other such things. The egalitarians out there will hate me for talking about this because the egalitarian faction hates it when you enact the leadership enhancement policies, but they used to increase leader XP gain. Now that increases leader starting level. This is another thing I've noticed reading through these patches and some of the other information we've had. So they've nerfed leader experience gain across the board, and they've reduced the amount you can buff your leaders up with XP outside of the council. Again, I'm going to say outside of the council. Leaders on the council can gain experience faster than ever, I suspect. And instead, you can now start your leaders at very, very high levels. For example, your admirals can now start at, I believe, level 8 right out of the gate. So you can start and purchase admirals with destiny traits. Buy them, check out what the destiny trait options are, throw them away. It's like a bag of nuts. You buy a bag of cashews, you crack them open. Is it a good nut? Yes, it is. You eat it. No, it's not. I throw it out. That's completely wild. I'm not sure I'm in favor of just being able to buy level 8 leaders. Having said that, it's kind of cool, I guess, or kind of helpful that later on in the game, we won't need to wait around for our leaders to level up if our leaders die off. Instead, we can just recruit very high level leaders right out of the gate and get on with them. leader starting age has once again been increased. So leaders will start older, meaning they die younger, unless you take extra technologies and the like. Leaders now have a slightly higher chance to start at a higher level. So not only can you increase the minimum level of starting leaders, you could also just randomly have a leader appear in your pool that's at +1, +2 starting levels above whatever your tech, your policies, all of your traditions allow you to be at. So maybe we'll actually get level 10 starting leaders. That just sounds a bit silly. Oh look, I can recruit a leader. They're already maxed out. What do I do now? Okay. Learning campaign edicts leader experience gain have been reduced. As I said, reducing leader XP gain across the board after you've recruited the leaders. Mercantile diplomatic stance now grants +1 external leader pool size in addition to existing effects. Naval Tradition Federation perk grants +1 initial admiral level instead of +10% admiral experience gain. Yeah, this is why the Naval Tradition Federation perk means that you really want that Federation type. I think it's the Marshall Federation, I'm pretty sure, that is going to be granting you basically level 8 leaders. I think you can get there around year 20, maybe 15 if you really rush for it. It's a little bonkers. Nerve Stapled now gives -100% leader experience gain. That's a great thematic change. I really like that one. Because of course, if you're Nerve Stapled, you're basically kind of vegetative. So why would you get experience about the world if you're not even experiencing it? If you somehow generate leaders from the species with this trait. Not that you should be. I guess you could have the leader and then you Nerve Staple them. Maybe. Not having a head of research or Gestalt equivalent will impose a -25% penalty to research speed. Yeah, we've seen that. Not having Minister of Defense. Yeah, we've seen that. Not going to read them again for your benefit. Opener effect for synthetics now reduces robot upkeep and robot assembly cost. This is, I think, really powerful. I'm starting to think that you might actually want to, with your synthetics ascension, not actually ascend the species, just complete the ascension path, and that way get all of the lovely bonuses to robot output and the like without necessarily uplifting your species for the maximum benefit, or at least for some of the fun benefit without, even needing to go down the full path. Philosopher King now only provides +5 effective ruler level. The fact that this is only, I honestly, wow. Assuming dictatorial hasn't changed, let's say you put this on a dictatorial ruler right from the start of the game, assuming you're also not increasing your leader level by taking certain civics that start your leaders off at, let's say, level 4 or 5 or even higher, or maybe taking the under 1 rule origin. I think you can get to level 7, maybe even level 8 as a starting leader ruler now with under 1 rule, which is just so stupid. But anyway, that gives +5 effective ruler level. So let's say you're at level 1. +5 is then 6 for effective ruler level of 6. You would be getting -12% amenities upkeep, as well as +60 edict fund right from the start of the game. If you are under 1 rule, that's kind of bonkers. You might be up at 120, 130 edict fund right from the start, which is better than an ascension perk. You just take this civic, and you don't need an ascension perk for +100 edict fund. You don't need to take the edict fund traits. Why would you need those? You can already run all of your edicts from the start and run any other edicts you get for the first probably 10 or 20 years without cutting into your Unity output. That's wild, and I love this change. That's really, really, really cool. Players can now build multiple quantum catapults. I'm going to read that again, because just in case those in the back row didn't hear me. Players can now build multiple quantum catapults. So you can build more than one in more than one location, guaranteeing your ability to randomly hurl fleets anywhere you'd like in the galaxy. Honestly, without being able to group up the fleets that you throw across the game, even with the Quantic Ambush modifier, not being able to stack fleets to throw, even if they land in a random location, that's not a problem. The fact that they all get separated blunt any use of this as an offensive weapon beyond simply antagonizing an opponent, throwing in a few cruisers with hangers on just to snipe star bases and be annoying. Quantum catapults really need to have a feature where you can group up the fleets into a single unit to then send to one, albeit randomized location elsewhere in the galaxy. That would make them effective. That would make them a terrifying force. I mean, they're a mega structure, for goodness sake. Let's make quantum trebuchets great again. Pompous Purist Civics now grants -1 external leader pool size in addition to existing effects. Pops now have ethics attraction towards the ethics of the local planetary governor. That's really cool. I really like that change. Hopefully moving towards an internal politics rework or DLC, just saying, maybe. But anyway, rebalance a number of species traits that affect leader XP gain. I'm guessing balance down. They've rebalanced feudal society and the franchising civics and shared destiny ascension perks. Yeah, as we've seen, I'm pretty sure we've seen that they've nerfed those a bit. They've rebalanced the statecraft tradition. The main thing in this tradition that's been rebalanced is everything has been boosted up. It's all got more powerful. Statecraft now is, I think if you're playing a regular Bio-Empire, pretty much A to S tier now. It's really, really good. You also, every time you complete an agenda, which you'll be completing in record time thanks to the fact that you start with 4 counselors as a regular Bio-Empire now, and will get plus 25% agenda speed and plus 25% agenda duration, you get 150 experience per level per leader. So each leader will get 150 experience multiplied by their current level when you complete an agenda. That means your counselors will be, unlike the rest of your empire, blitzkrieging through every level. Don't worry about, not getting your counselors to high levels. I think they're going to be getting there really, really quick. They've rebalanced the aptitude traditions and leadership conditioning. Yes, they've made leadership conditioning more powerful, it sounds like. It now grants 3,000 experience. Wow. I don't know why I read the last few out of order. Ignore that, we're just going to continue. If you haven't been reading along with me, you probably didn't notice, so continue not reading along and pretend I'm reading things in perfect order. They've rebalanced the auto-curating vault, Vault of Acquisitions, Alpha Hub, and Citadel of Faith. I'm not sure in which way. That basically gave additional Unity from all the Unity producing jobs in the world. I'm hoping they made it better because it was kind of underpowered and underwhelming, but we'll have to see. They've reduced the experience gain from Transcendent Learning. As I said, XP gain has gone down across the board. They've removed the leader pool increase from Transcendent Learning. Yes, they've nerfed Transcendent Learning into the ground pretty hard, I would say, especially with some of the changes to, a lot of these things. I think Transcendent Learning went from kind of an auto pick to something you might pick every now and then. Plus 25% XP gain and plus 2 scientists is what it does now. They said that in another dev diary, I'm pretty sure. Removed leader pool size modifiers from ethics. They're now tied into government authority, which I think is the place they should be, rather than being in egalitarian and authoritarian. It does make more sense having them there. That I think is a good move overall. They've removed the leader upkeep modifiers from embodied dynamism and collective self-text. Okay, so leader upkeep is more difficult now. You're going to be paying more, possibly for many, many more leaders. Even if you're not going over your cap, you might be paying quite a lot more Unity to keep your leaders around. They've removed the minus 10% leader hire and upkeep costs from traditions that only apply to a single class. They replaced the +1 leader capacity from oppressive autocracy with +1 commander capacity. They reworked the Research Institute, planetary supercomputer, and military academy buildings. I think one of the devs was posting these around on Discord earlier today. At least Sapphire shared a screenshot with me. I assume it came from one of the Discords, if not possibly the actual page where the dev diary is posted. Anyway, I don't know. Now what it basically does, it's kind of like a tech. In essence, you get +1 leader capacity of the appropriate type. So Research Institute grants +1 scientist capacity and +5% research speed, but they are Empire unique. So they're not the kind of thing you throw down on every planet anymore, which is, I think a move in the wrong direction. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how it plays. They've slightly increased the time needed to survey a system. I think that's actually really good. Increasing time needed to survey a system means that the most fun part of the game, the exploration part, will take longer. Having more scientists now is more important. You're doing more surveying if you do have that. and on top of that, actually specializing your scientists in the exploration side of things is possibly not completely useless, especially if you're able to research scientists right out of the gate at like level 4 or 5 or even higher early on. That could make it, by increasing the time needed to survey a system, better, because they've artificially elongated the exploration part of the game. I think maybe it should be moved beyond slightly increased to kind of maybe 50%, maybe doubling the time needed to survey a system. That might feel more thematic. For those of us that played for a while, it might take a bit of getting used to, but I think overall it could add more mystery, add more wonder out there in the galaxy as we explore more slowly. It could definitely increase the time the game takes before we go from that early stage where we are, as I said, exploring, the galaxy feels vast, and then later on as you discover everybody and they fill up all the space, the galaxy feels very, very small, kind of like butter stretched across too much bread, to quote a great ring bearer. Specialist subjects now get +1 capacity of the relevant leader type instead of +20% experience gain for that subject type. Again, we're losing more and more experience and gaining more and more capacity. So, assuming you take the bonuses to increase your starting leader levels as well for the various different traditions and stuff, you will have overall leaders that start higher in level. We're looking at level 3 through 5 kind of quite easily, maybe even level 6 or 7 or even 8 if you're looking at commanders, but who gain very little experience or much lower experience than we are otherwise used to. Species that give bonuses or malices to leader experience gain are now multiples of 10%, not 25%. So they've reduced that area of leader XP gain. Technocracy now gives expertise traits additional effects for scientists when governing planets or sectors. And those additional effects are basically lots and lots of bonus research production for the specific research type that expertise is a branch of. For example, society research production increased on a planet where that governor is governing. The effects of ruthless competition council position now matches memory vaults. Interesting. Very interesting. The Carnate Successor Origin now boosts military leaders. The Lord High Admiral Council position now gives increased naval capacity instead of increased commander experience gain. The Minister of Defense and Head of Research are no longer mandatory council positions. Just like the Minister of State, they can be reorganized with the Reorganized Council agenda and left by the wayside. The opinion lost with the Trader Enclave for cancelling a trade deal now scales with the size of the deal. That's, I think, a good balance change, something that basically means if the deal is more important, they will be more upset with you, and that makes a lot of sense. The traditions that previously gave -10% leader hire and upkeep costs for a given class now increase the leader capacity for leaders of that class. And as far as we know, they also increase the starting level of that class, or that's what has been mentioned in previous dev diaries, so we will have to see. Aptitude Tradition Adoption now gives initial leader skill +1 instead of +1 starting trait to leaders. So yeah, Aptitude gives all of your leaders +1 to their leader level. Discovery, Domination, and Supremacy traditions now increase initial skill level for leaders instead of decreasing upkeep and higher costs. Sorry, here it is, I forgot it was written later on. I just thought it actually wasn't written anywhere. Transcendent Learning Leader Experience Gain modifier has been reduced to 25%, as I mentioned previously, and it now gives +2 scientist capacity. Universal Transactions now gives +1 official capacity and +20% commercial pact efficiency. What's crazy about commercial pact efficiency and why it's kind of broken is that both empires will increase the commercial pact's effectiveness by whatever modifiers they've got on both ends. So if you have +20% and your opponent, or sorry, your friend, I should say in this case, has +20% and you go into a commercial pact, then both of those are added in together and you get even higher commercial pact efficiency. They've updated the 5 existing planet modifiers: weak magnetic field, strong magnetic field, asteroid belt, natural planet, and bleak planet to be something different. We'll have to find out in game. You can also now only find one promising officer every 2 years. That's an event where basically you get a free admiral. Apparently that was happening too often. I honestly hadn't found that, but good, fair enough. Before we move on, I just want to go over the maths of it for just a moment to explain how I'm getting to that level 7 or level 8 leader in the recruitable pool for your commanders, and also why it's so important. Right, so you can get something called Genius Armorer, assuming they haven't changed that too much, and other traits on your admirals, now commanders, that were really, really powerful. Traits that reduce the construction cost, traits that reduce the upkeep of ships, and traits that give all of your ships, especially corvettes, plus 100 shield and armor and plus 20% shield and armor hardening. If you can skip straight to being a level 8 leader, then oh my goodness me, it's just silly. Right, so you start at level 1, so we already have that in the bag. Finishing the Supremacy Tradition and the Aptitude Tradition is plus 2 levels for your commanders. You're now at level 3. If you take the Leader Enhancement Technology, it's definitely 1, possibly even 2, because they said they have replaced the Leadership Gain, and it goes up when you go from level 1 to level 2 on the Leader Enhancement Policy. So that's at least 1, maybe 2. Therefore, we're currently at, we were at level 3, we're now at level 4, maybe 5. Taking the Distinguished Admiralty Civic takes us from 4 up to 6, because that grants plus 2, and Vaults of Knowledge takes us to 7, possibly 8 if we're getting 2 from the second level of Leader Enhancement. But there's one thing I've missed, and that's plus 1 from the Federation bonus, putting us at least at level 8, if not possibly at level 9. And as has been mentioned by a developer in one of the comments on a previous dev diary, all effects that cause leaders to start at a higher level have been changed so that the additional traits from those levels are no longer automatically selected if you own Galactic Paragons. Meaning we will be able to level those leaders up ourselves, those level 8 or 9 leaders, choose the traits that they have, and if they don't roll the traits we like, well, we can just fire them immediately. Yeah, we've spent maybe a few hundred, a few thousand Unity on them, but if we're just able to churn out level 8 leaders at 30 or 40 years into the game, a short time after it started, that is simply bonkers. They've kind of nerfed leaders to make them really, really powerful. It does depend on what the traits change to. Again, as I've said repeatedly throughout this, the traits are changing and we have to see what those changes are going to be. But even if they're nerfed a bit, this is still very, very powerful stuff, and I have some concerns. I'm not going to read through all of the bug fixes. I am going to talk about a couple of them just to highlight some things that will be very impactful on your games going forwards. The fact that these are written in as bug fixes and not changes to balance, I'm a little surprised by, but there we are. So, first one is that leader traits from Ascension Paths no longer provide research points scaling with the leader's level. That means if you get psionic leaders by rushing the psionic ascension, you will not be getting additional research points for those leaders. So the psionic feudal meta build is sadly very, very, very dead as of this patch. On top of that, the devs have set the base value for percent of leader lifespan to match the leader lifespan define value. What does this mean? Because it sounds a bit opaque. Basically, this means that your leaders will be roughly the same age relative to their overall lifespan when they spawn in. So if you have very, very long-lived leaders, for example, Necrophage and Enduring or Venerable combined together, your leaders will be much, much older than you are used to, because they come in at a predefined amount of life passed proportional to their total life. So really what you want to do is spawn your leaders in and then change their genetic makeup so that once they're already leaders and their age cannot be changed, their overall lifespan is increased massively. Also, the later into the game you get and the longer the overall lifespan of your leaders, the higher the age they will be. I suppose in some ways this thematically makes a lot of sense when they're also increasing the leader starting level. So yes, okay, leaders are coming in now, they're going to be level 3 through 5 probably later on in the game due to different traditions and bonuses you're going to be picking up. But those leaders will be significantly older, maybe even beyond the old life expectancy of your species from the start of the game. So when we compare leaders at the start of the game to leaders you recruit, let's say 50 or 80 or 100 years in, yes, they might be level 5, but they're also 80, 90, 100 years old, whereas your previous species was dying at 70 or 80 years into the game. So thematically, that does make a lot of sense, and I kind of see how this would all work together. There are some AI improvements coming with the game as well in 3.10. The AI will no longer build habitats if they have an uncolonized habitat. So they will first colonize that habitat or leave it uncolonized and wait before building another. That should reduce the AI spamming habitats too much if that's a behavior they had been doing, which sometimes they have. The AI will prefer building habitats in systems with upgraded star bases unless they have the Void Dweller Origin or the Voidborn Ascension perk. Overall, very little apparently changing with the AI, but we're getting a couple of important changes to habitat behavior coming in. Before we look at the performance and UI changes, I just want to take a moment to congratulate a few members of our community that are currently leading the leaderboard in an event we have ongoing during November. Congratulations to SystemX14, who is in the lead with 4 golden Montus, which in total is 16 points, followed closely by a close second and third place of LD and Iron Sasquatch at 3 golden Montus apiece, or 12 points. Basically, until the end of November, all Patreon and YouTube supporters can currently compete to try and complete all of the challenges you may have seen me try in my videos. We are keeping track of everyone's progress with a leaderboard as well, so if you'd like to compete and attempt to win not just the prestige, but also the grand prize, which is, if you come at number 1 on our leaderboard, the chance to design a challenge that I will be forced to attempt and create an entire video on. Then make sure to sign up as a YouTube member or join on Patreon. Head on over to my community Discord server and have a go at those challenges. Now on to the performance changes coming. There are only a few of these again, like the AI changes. They've added a game rule for possible pre-calc equals can fill precursor job. I don't know exactly why that wasn't in there before, but it's good that we're checking if they can fill a precursor job in a pre-calculated way rather than doing that over and over again, which probably is a bad idea. They've added a define triggered modifier update delay, which lets the game spread out calculations of triggered modifiers. Unfortunately, that won't have any impact realistically on things that happen at the end of the month, at the end of the year, when those kind of triggers get called, I'm imagining, but it will allow the smoothing out of interim time periods. They fixed a case where country modifiers would continually recalculate every day. That's silly. I'm glad they caught that one. Maybe that one should go in bug fix, but it will be a performance increase, so that's great. Nothing here about late game lag though, however, which is a shame. What about UI changes? UI is the way we interact with the game, especially for newer players. Having better and improved UI is really, really important for player retention. I'm told, or have been told in the past, I can't remember where I got this figure from, but somewhere in the region of 30, 40, maybe it was even higher, percentage of players don't even make it past their first hour of Stellaris. That implies a very steep learning curve amongst other things, so better UI is very important. They've added new backgrounds for assembly and organic assembly. I mean, that doesn't really help with player retention, but it's probably going to be good for those returning players like me that want to see something different there. They've added the ability to add an element to the event window, specifying the event chain this event is a part of. We have spoken about that before, and I think that's a really great addition in order for you as the player to keep track of what is happening where and what it could mean. Archaeological sites and Astral Rift map icons are now coloured depending on their exploration state. That's really cool. So now we're going to be able to know whether or not something is being explored or if it is unexplored, rather than just knowing if it is explored or completed as we knew previously. They've changed the leader cap indicator in the top bar to only display envoys. I'm not sure this is so helpful, so I'm guessing here this means that we can only see leaders rather than in the top bar, but through a menu somewhere else. That, I suppose, is because leader capacities are so high these days that you really don't care. They fixed the fleet command limit multipliers not appearing in the tooltip if they add up to plus 100%. The improve and harm relations monthly values are now shown to 2 decimal places, so you actually see if you're getting bonuses there. They've improved the tooltips for agenda progress, so you now know more about what is happening with agendas. They have removed the notification for leader pool renova. I assume that means update, maybe renovation, definitely not covfefe. This has probably been fixed later on, but I am reading this very soon after release. If you go to the patch notes now, you'll probably see something better there. I'm guessing notification for leader pool update has gone, maybe, but that's kind of something I'd like to know when the leader pool gets updated, so confusion. The leader list now shows the cap for each class. Yes, here we go. So it's no longer in that bar, it's in the leader list. The tooltip for agenda progress now shows modifiers to monthly agenda progress. That's pretty awesome. They've updated the main flag button to show the name of the empire, and debug info if you're using the debug view. They've added a subtitle to all longer event chains, which is kind of what we spoke about before, and they've added event chain subtitles for the 5 original precursors. That's also cool. I know that the developers have in the past, in previous dev diaries, spoken about including a thread for any event chains they don't add this new subtitling for. If there's an event chain you find in the game that you think should have subtitling to keep track of it, let the developers know in that thread. I don't have it yet to link, but just keep an eye out for it. I'm not going to read through the extensive list of modding changes. You can do that yourself. I'll put a link to the dev diary down in the description. However, we're now over 55 minutes through, and just before I wrap this video up, I'm going to say thank you for listening so far. This is the secret call out. Let me know down in the comments below if you're still listening, if you listened through my rambling on about the balance changes, because there was a lot to go through there in those balance changes. And that's the secret call out. There it is. Also, I'm going to say this has been a massive, massive, massive patch. Clearly, there's a lot of changes have come in here. A lot of changes coming to especially leaders and all of the systems that leaders touch. Now, leaders and rebalancing leaders and balancing them again for the umpteenth time is something I hope the developers stop looking at. I hope they kind of finally can get it to a place where they are happy, where it doesn't overwhelmingly break the game. Do I think this is the final leader update? No, honestly, I think we might see more changes in the future coming in to nerf the leaders yet further. I think they might still be too powerful. I might be a little biased here though. I just want them to stop touching leaders long enough for me to be able to release a comprehensive tier list on all of those traits. Because don't forget, there's like 600 or 700 of the darn things that have to be looked at. Right, I'll next be seeing you on Thursday when I'll release my review of Astral Planes, and I should be live streaming Astral Planes as well at release on top of that review video. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to find out a bit more about what is coming with the DLC, what some of those paid features are, then click the video on screen now.